Good evening. The Nutcracker season is upon us. There's nothing more festive than twirling snowflakes and waltzing flowers as this magical story is told through dance. Our dance chat this evening is about all things Nutcracker. My name is Petra Kralickova, and I'm the executive director at the National Museum of Toys and Miniatures, where I am speaking from. I'm excited to be here with three amazing, talented dancers. I will read a short biography of each dancer and then ask questions. Whitney Huell, who trained at the South Carolina Governor's School for the Arts and Humanities under the tutelage of Stanislav Isayev and Robert Barnett. She then attended Indiana University, earning a Bachelor of Science in Ballet and Psychology before joining Ballet West. In January 2011, Ms. Huell was one of the Dance magazine's top 25 to watch and was also featured in the September 2012 issue of Point magazine. Ms. Huell joined Kansas City Ballet in 2014 and has performed featured roles in many different ballets by various choreographers. In 2018, she was featured as the Sugar Plum Fairy in Devin Carney's production of the Nutcracker, becoming the first African-American in Kansas City Ballet's history to perform the role. Welcome with me to the chat. Lamin Pereira was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and started dancing at the Centro de Dança Rio under the training of Maria Angelica Fiorani. In 2007, Mr. Pereira was hired by the Ballet of Municipal Theatre of Rio de Janeiro to perform in Dalal Achar production of the Nutcracker as a soloist. In 2011, he joined the Washington Ballet Studio Company and performed in various ballets, including the Nutcracker by Septime Weber. From 2011 to 2014, Mr. Pereira danced with the Orlando Ballet, where he performed all leading roles. He joined Kansas City Ballet in 2014. Ms. Pereira has represented Kansas City Ballet at Benoist de la Danse Gala at the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow, Russia, performing Tin Man from the ballet The Wizard of Oz, choreographed by Septime Weber, and he has been a guest artist with the Finnish National Ballet. And finally, we're going to be speaking with Madeline Malin, 13-year-old, who attends Lawrence Virtual School. She began training at Kansas City Ballet School in 2018 when she came to Kansas City Ballet Junior Summer Intensive. Her joy of dance stood out, and she was invited to attend the daytime program in the fall. Her family did not live in the Kansas City metro area, and although she was unable to move to Kansas City at such a young age, she continued training through private lessons. In 2020, her family made it possible for Madeline to join the daytime program, and this is her second full-time year at the Kansas City Ballet School. She's an exemplary student, hardworking, always given 100% in class, and expressing her love of dance every day. This is her very first year dancing the role of Clara in Devin Carney's The Nutcracker. We have an amazing three dancers with us today, so welcome to a great chat. And with this great introduction, I would like to talk about a little bit about the very first experience with your Nutcracker. Where did they take place and how old were you? Whitney.
Hi, yes. So I started doing the Nutcracker probably around the age of 6, like 5 or 6. And it was with a company called Ebony Dance Theater, which was an affiliate of D. Crump School of Dance in Columbia, South Carolina. And I was a bonbon, which is like one of the Mother Ginger children at that time. Yeah, so that was really fun for me, and it was really exciting to be in my first Nutcracker. And then I did Nutcracker many years with that company. I was also a party girl, and then I also was a marzipan as well in that Nutcracker, and it was really fun. It was a really fun experience to have with the other kids in the program, and I really looked forward to it every year. So yeah, I was really young when I first started, and really enjoyed that experience. And I didn't do Nutcracker in high school because at my boarding school we didn't have it there. But then I started doing Nutcracker again when I went to Indiana University. And there I did Dewdrop and some other roles. And then when I joined Ballet West, that's when I got Nutcracker Overload, because I think one season we performed like 45 shows. And it was so much, and I was doing several roles there, but it was really, I mean, it became like a tradition once I joined a company.
Of course. That's
yeah,
amazing experience.
time.
Thank you. Lamine, how about you? When was your very first experience with the Nutcracker?
My very first experience, hi. My very first experience was doing a TV show in Brazil where I got to play the role of Fritz. So that was really fun. Yeah, that's the picture. So it was really fun, and especially to do something on TV, it felt very special, you know. And after that, I did my first professional Nutcracker with the main opera house in Rio. And there I was able to do some soloist roles. I did Marzipan, which was performed by two guys and a girl. And I also did the Padre in Waltz of the Flowers. They had a makeup also. I was able to perform with the company. And then after that, my third time performing the Nutcracker was when I came to the US. And, you know, with Nutcracker every year, I did the first time with Washington Ballet. And then I move on to Orlando Ballet, where I did the Nutcracker as well, and then here.
Thank you. So you're each going to perform a different role. Madeline, tell us a little bit about your role and what you find challenging about it, and then we'll have everybody else answer as well.
Hi, my role is as Clara in Devin Carney's The Nutcracker. And I think the most challenging thing so far has maybe been making sure I'm on the correct counts, because the music sometimes changes from an 8 to a 9 or a 12. But it's just really an amazing experience, and I'm so excited for this opportunity. And this is a picture from when I was 2. And I was at a small studio in Illinois, and this is my first year dancing.
That's amazing to share. And there is your very own Nutcracker.
Yeah, that was after a wonderful production that I saw at the Nutcracker in Kansas City, performed by the Kansas City Ballet. And I've been seeing productions of this Nutcracker since a very young age. And this was after a production, and I was pretending to be Clara because I had been looking up to the dancers in that, and it was so exciting for me.
What a dream come true for you. Thank you for sharing. About you, Whitney, you have danced several different roles. Which ones have you enjoyed the most, and which ones were the most challenging, and why?
Yes, definitely Sugar Plum is the most challenging for me. It's just, it never gets easier as far as like stamina goes. I mean, yeah, you build up a stamina to do it, but you're just really exhausted afterward. And so that makes it my favorite, actually, because it's so challenging and because there's always something to work on and to build to. So that definitely is probably my favorite role. I also enjoyed doing Snow Queen in past years. That was really fun. I love that costume. And yeah, and also I love Frau, which is the host of the party in the party scene. I really like that role as well. And I feel like I can kind of be more myself instead of portraying one. So yeah, those are probably my favorite roles that I have done.
Oh, I love it. The sugar plum sounds exciting. So, Lamine, you have done quite a few roles too, and you have quite a bit of roles in this production. Which ones are your favorite and which ones are challenging?
I have two main roles that I really enjoy. One of them is Cavalier, that I get to dance with Whitney. We're dancing together. So Cavalier is definitely very challenging technically, more than anything else, especially since you're the only two on stage and then you're the only one on stage. And you have to take care of your partner, make sure she's on her leg, and you have to turn her, all those things that a male dancer has to do before going to his solo, which is called variation, and then into the coda. So that's the most challenging one, physically, technically. And then anyway, it's my favorite one. And then there's also Drasamaya, which I really enjoy playing because it's more acting. There's a lot more acting throughout the whole ballet. So Drasamaya is in the ballet from the very beginning to the very end. And what is special about this role, and I never realized until I actually had to do it for the first time, is that you carry on the whole story. You're basically responsible for the audience to understand what you're telling, from the very beginning, the workshop, how you're talking to your toys, you're making your toys, and then you bring them to life later, and guiding Clara throughout the party scene and talking to everybody. So it is a very special role, and I didn't realize that until I had to actually do it. It's also very challenging because you have a lot of props and a lot of tricks that you have to do. You have a lot of accessories that you have to know exactly what you're doing. From the very beginning in workshop, you have a lot of things to do. You have to make sure you put the toys in the right box because they have different sizes. You need to make sure you're doing the right order. Otherwise, the story doesn't really make sense. So you always have to really pay attention. And there's a music for it. You have a musical cue. You have a lot of counts that you have to be on. So that's very challenging. Party scene is always a blast. Is always fun because the more you get comfortable, the more you get to relax on stage and play around with your friends and the other dancers. And this story becomes even more real, I want to say. And then this is a picture actually of the battle scene, which is really fun. You really feel like you're in charge of the whole battle scene. When the small furniture become a bigger furniture and everything's so big and it's so impressive, you really feel like you have the power and you can do magic on stage. So it's another favorite role of mine for sure.
That's a great responsibility and a story. I can certainly relate to it here at the Twin Miniature Museum, where things seems to shrink overnight.
Yeah, it's really fun, it's just fun. You have to come and see, and it's
Just experience.
Yeah, experience that.
That's fantastic. Well, you've mentioned a little bit about rehearsals. And so I would like to segment into rehearsals. And what are those like? What's the kind of schedule and how long does it take to learn a role to dance in a ballet like the Nutcracker? Madeline, why don't you start going first?
Well, we rehearse, or at least for my role, I rehearse about 10 to 15 hours a week. Most of the rehearsals are in the evening, and it's been really fun to work with the company in the past few rehearsals. There is Clara's there with Miss Cohen. And We started in early October, and we're going to keep rehearsing until December 3rd when the first show begins.
Before the show starts on December 3rd.
This is a picture from, I was rehearsing the snow scene when the prince puts the crown on my head. Yeah, it's just really exciting. And my role now, I am really just trying to refine it because now I know all the choreography from all the previous rehearsals. And now I'm just really trying to have fun with the role and really get into it. So.
Thank you. Now you mentioned choreography. So Whitney, just some of the choreography change from one place to another, how you rehearse and what you have to remember from one ballet production to another.
Yes, so every company I've been in, it's a different version. I mean, some companies do the Balanchine version, and that one's pretty consistent, but in the ballets that I've been in, they've been different. And actually, when I joined the company, we were still doing the first version. I think it was the Todd Bollinger version. And then the second year was when Devin Carney created his new version. So that's always kind of nice. It keeps it fresh to have new choreography. And this version has pretty much stayed the same, except for this year, because of the pandemic and COVID. Certain things have had to change, such as like marzipan. There's fewer children. So there's one scene where we had little lambs in a shepherd scene for the marzipan, but there aren't any lambs anymore. So it had to be kind of changed up a bit. So a few choreography changes have happened this year.
That's super interesting. How about you, Lamine? How long do you rehearse for a ballet like the Nutcracker?
Now is a little bit easier because we've been here for this is our 8th season with the company, and we've been working on this version for 6 years. So it's a lot easier because since you do it every year, it kind of like, even like now after like not doing for 2 years, when we got back to it, like the choreography was there, you know, it was like we could just go on and perform right now. Like a lot of the diverts and some other choreography and the workshop for Drasamaya, let's say. So it's not too hard for whoever's been here for a while. But I'm sure it's very hard for those new dancers in the company because it's a lot of material, it's a lot of choreography, it's a lot of counts. So for me, it's not too intense. I want to say the most intense part is getting in shape for the Grand Pas de Deux, which is the most physical one. So, and we've been rehearsing pretty much every day. Me and Whitney, whenever we don't have rehearsal scheduled, like today, we didn't have rehearsal for the Grand Pas de Deux. We did it during our lunch break because we have to make sure, you know, you're in shape and you have the correct technique to perform. So it really depends. I feel like it's a lot harder for the newbies. But basically we do it like every day. We go in at 9:15 in the morning, which is when we have class. And then we start rehearsals at 11 into 2 o'clock. And then we take a lunch break for 1 hour. And then we start rehearsals again at 3 into 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So
that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
You all mentioned staying fit, and Lamine, you did staying fit and staying in shape. But we also talked about being in the pandemic for the last couple of years. So how have you kept in shape? And we can start with Whitney. Tell us.
Well, since Nutcracker has started and everything, we've been back in the studios, but it has been more challenging because we wear masks. So that's probably been the biggest challenge, trying to be at that top like tier form, but also doing everything with the mask on. So it's hard. It's actually harder because you're not getting as much like oxygen, but you're doing the same choreography. So that has been like the biggest challenge as far as staying fit and having less air to breathe. But I mean, we're making it work. And so it's nice to know that it is possible. So, I mean, our stamina will just get better from here. But yeah, with the present situation, we have to do that to make it work.
And let me mention that you go for lunch and then you come back to rehearsal. So let me, do you want to go back to it and then tell us kind of what you have for lunch? What is your favorite food? So you can go back to rehearsal from the studio and keep up with your energy in that way.
Honestly, I hate eating during lunch.
So you just have lunch without eating.
And like we have 5-minute breaks every hour. So during my 5-minute break, like I would snack on like I'll eat a banana, I'll have some nuts or have grapes or have a protein bar, but I don't actually sit down to have lunch. Whenever I do that, I don't feel good to go back to dancing. Like I feel discomfort, you know. So I just rather stay away from lunch and just snack throughout the day and, you know, have my protein shake and all that kind of stuff.
That would be hard. Madeline, how about you? Staying fit and prepared, and how does food treat you then?
I eat a lot of fruit and yogurt. I find that dairy really helps me, but I don't like to have anything too heavy on breaks or anything, because then I feel I just can't dance as well. But here's a picture of my first junior summer intensive in 2018. And after this program, I knew that I wanted to do I wanted to perform on the Kaufman stage one day. And so this was when I really figured out that I wanted to be a professional ballerina one day after this program here. And I wanted to be with KCB.
And there it is. Let's stay with staying fit and fitting into costumes. So I will ask two kind of folded questions. How does it feel like kind of fitting into costumes? And also, do you have a ritual before a performance or with a costume that treats you well? Madeline, since I have you here, why don't you start?
Well, we get our costume fittings. Mine was in early November. And for this role, we have 3 costumes. And the costumes, the way they work is that they have 2 sets for each costume. So for instance, in the nightgown, there's nightgown 1 and nightgown 2. So depending on, you know, how tall you are, then maybe a longer skirt would fit you better. And yeah, the costumes, I think we have to get used to them before we go onto stage. And so it was really a wonderful experience to have that costume fitting. It was really exciting for me.
So one thing to dance with leotard, and one thing to dance with all the costumes. That's great. So is there a specific ritual yet that you've developed?
Well, I'm always usually kind of quiet before I go into a performance, because I need to get
some contemplation
into my zone before I just think positively and just maybe go over my choreography and just know that I'm gonna give it my all.
That's great. Thank you. How about you, Whitney? What's your zone and what's your costume ritual?
Yeah, similar to Madeline, I get kind of quiet. I like to put my shoes on pretty early to make sure that they feel good and, you know, in the tights and in the shoes. So I'll put my shoes on probably about half an hour before I need to be out on stage, just so I can feel like, you know, one with the shoe that's on my foot. And yeah, I will practice a few things before I go on stage if I have the time. But I don't try to wear myself out. Like I don't like overdo it, because then that causes me to kind of overthink. But yeah, so typically that's what I do. I like to get to the dressing room pretty early, put my makeup on. I don't like being rushed. So I'd say just getting there with plenty of time is probably the most comfortable I am before a show.
Lamine, what about you?
I like to get there very early as well. Not too early, but at least like an hour and a half before
Sure.
half an hour call. And then usually what I like to do is, you know, settle, put my things in my dressing room, make sure they're organized and not on my way or my roommate's way. And I personally like to shower before a performance. I like to get in, like take a hot shower, and then I do my makeup, do my hair, and then I start warming up. And I pretty much warm up in my dressing room because it's big enough. So I just do what I need to do in there, you know, have my music to calm me down so I don't think about performance yet. I don't have a ritual with the costume really, but my shoes are the last thing I put on. And I do a thing where I put them on top of the lamps. And so they stay warm. So the way when I go to put them on, like I feel cozy and I feel like it will help keep my feet warm. And I love doing that. I don't know why I do it, but I love doing it. I mean, I just told why, but yeah.
Sure, it's a ritual. It helps you prepare. Well, thank you. I wanted to invite the audience to ask questions if you have in the chat. And I am talking here with Whitney Hugh, Lamine Pereira, and Madeline Huling. Dancers you can see in the Kansas City Ballet performance of Devon Carney's The Nutcracker on December 3rd through the 24th in the Muriel Kaufman Theater at the Kaufman Center of Performing Arts. Also, on behalf of the Toy and Miniature Museum, I would like to invite you to a free visit to the museum with this season Kansas City Ballet Nutcracker ticket. And you can see behind me I will call it a ballet going on of toys, but it is called a toy-to-serie that spins around like a ballerina might, but just very slowly. So all of you have talked about shoes. And since I have Lamine here, Lamine, tell me how many shoes you go through, or is there such a thing? Is there just one point shoe that you use and that's it?
Guys in ballet didn't use point shoes. They can, if they want to. There is a company that is, the company members, they're all men, they're male dancers, and it's called Trocadeiro. And they all perform in point shoe and they dress up as a ballerina. There is a company like that. And there are people that are very capable of being on point shoe. But as a male dancer, I don't go on point. So I use flat shoes, which is very different than the point shoe. I don't go through a lot of shoes because they just last longer. Especially, so see, there's a difference in them.
There's a difference in them, yes.
Yeah. So I don't go through a lot of shoes because it's just a different material. And they last like a long time actually. Like I have stock of shoes, like especially old shoes that, like, let's say these shoes that I'm wearing right there, they are painted. And I use them through all the Nutcracker performances through the whole month, and I never got a hole in them. And I still have them. I could still use now. So I would say that I use maybe one pair of shoe. I have like two months maybe.
Okay.
Which is very different.
So flats. Thank you for that correction. What about Madeline and Whitney? How are your shoe habits? Madeline. Sorry, no Whitney.
I go through more shoes than Lamine does. but not as much as other dancers in the company. I can wear a shoe for 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so especially if I rotate them, because I like to have about like maybe 3 or 4 pairs that I'm rotating, meaning that I wear some one day and then I'll change the shoe. You know, I'm not always wearing the same pair. And then I also, for Nutcracker, I like to have a certain shoe for a certain role. So say for Sugar Plum, I like to wear, you know, I'd have these shoes set aside. And then for, you know, Marzipan, I would have something else set aside. For Frau, I have something else, you know. So that actually makes the shoes last a little bit longer when you're only doing specific roles in each pair of shoes. But yeah, in Nutcracker, that's when I think the females go through most of their shoes, because almost everything is on point, even Party Scene is on point. So we go through a lot of shoes in that time period. We're allotted about 60 a year, which is plenty for me, but for some who like to wear a fresh pair all the time, they can run out pretty quickly. So we have to kind of balance out like when we wear them and how we're going to wear them and how to preserve them.
Interesting. Madeline, what are you finding out about shoes?
In this particular production of the Nutcracker, I wear flat shoes. And I'll probably go through a few pairs of those performances. As you can see there, I'm wearing my flat shoes. I do wear point shoes, but not in the performance, which is probably good, because when I throw my shoe at the Mouse King, I think that a flat shoe would be more comfortable. But the point shoes, the flat shoes, they're definitely more soft than the point shoes. So they don't wear as quickly as the point shoes do.
So let me mention that you don't wear as many, and Whitney said people can, other ballerinas can wear as many as 60 shoes or more. So tell us about your budget and budget for shoes. What does a shoe cost?
Well, I think that's probably why we have that limit of 60. It's because shoes are very expensive. They can be upwards of $90 or more a pair. So it's a big cost. And yeah, so some people can go through them so quickly, and that's like a lot of money every pair of shoes.
Every pair of shoes. Lamine, did you have a follow-up?
Yes. For the shoes I wear, they're like a lot cheaper, but still expensive. I think depending on the shoe, they can go like up to $30 for a pair of shoes. So it can, if I guess for like students, that can be very difficult because they might not be able to afford it. But for us, the company provide us with shoes and all the sort of things. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about them. But for the students, it's more complicated because it costs a lot.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's always something to think about, the entire production and what's the item for point shoes. We've seen so many beautiful pictures of you being in the production. What makes the Nutcracker such a special ballet to dance? You each speak with such passion about it. Whitney, or maybe since we have you, tell us, Lamine, what is it? What is it special about the Nutcracker performance here at Kansas City Ballet?
It's special because we can see that a lot of families, they really enjoy the performance, and it's a time of the year that they really embrace and they want to be together with their families and loved ones. So, and it's for them, it's a tradition, you know, they want to come every year, and it's part of their Christmas holiday, and they want to enjoy the time, the magical time that just happens on stage. You know, you get to kind of like get away from the real world and go into this like very magical place. So I think it's very special in that way. not only for the audience members, but I think for us as well, you know, performing this beautiful ballet, beautiful score, beautiful choreography, and also knowing that it happens during Christmas. So we are always so excited. Oh, it's Christmas time, you know, like we're gonna get to spend time with the family very soon once we have like 2 weeks off after the shows, you know. So it can be very special in many different ways.
Mhm. How about you, Whitney? What do you find interesting about this performance? And let me mention that you're performing from December 3rd till is it December
Yeah, Christmas
20?
Eve.
20, yes. So you don't have that much time. You just about make it for Christmas, home for Christmas.
Yeah. I think for me personally, coming back to Nutcracker every year, you can see your personal growth as a dancer, because most of the time in a company, each rep is usually different, meaning we do something different every year, but the same thing we do is Nutcracker. So you can kind of see how you're doing each year and check in. And it's nice to be able to revisit a role and say, this year, I really want to work on this in this role, or this year, I really want, to do a triple pirouette at the end of these fouettes or something like that. Like that is, you can always like set goals for yourself based on how you did it the year before. So that's what I like about Nutcracker, is because it's always challenging. There's always something you can improve on, and you can actually see your growth because you're doing it every year.
That's great. You can really improve by doing it each year and learning from the previous. What are you finding, Madeline, that's so special about this production?
I really feel like the Nutcracker portrays a story that's all about the holiday season, and it's about, this time of year, and it's just so exciting for all the dancers and for the audience, and it brings joy to everyone who sees it. It's just a wonderful production.
It really is. When I have not seen it since I have been here in Kansas City, but I really look forward to it. But I've seen some of the YouTube pictures and videos, and they're really just, I was just like you said, Madeline, I was just smiling. It really brought a smile to my face. We sparked an interest from the audience to ask more about shoes. So Michael Keelan asked if any one of you have tried the new 3D printed shoes. So the answer is no. Okay, so there is such a thing. And it might be where you go next time, where the next production might be in the 3D printed shoe. So tell me a little bit more about your influences, and we'll start with Madeline since we have you here. Tell me about kind of influences of dancers that you look up to, and who have danced kind of similar roles that you're in, like at the Nutcracker.
As I've said before, I've been coming and attending and watching the Nutcracker, this production, for many years.
Long time.
Many years, since I was a young dancer. And I always looked up to the Claras. I always thought they were amazing. And also all of the company members. And every day when I see them dancing, whenever I see them, it's just, it inspires me. And it's all of them are just amazing. And I'm so excited to be performing this role.
That's great. That's great. But your influences of dances that performed the Nutcracker in some of the roles you have been, or are there dancers from afar that you look up to?
Oh yes, there are a lot of dancers that I look up to. For not only for like specifically Nutcracker, but in general, there are a lot of dancers, a lot of amazing dancers out there that they are the highest quality dancers in the world, that I always like to go on YouTube and check them out and be like, oh, how is this person doing this? How would I like to work on something? Let's say like a jete or a split, in the air. How do I want to get to that level? How can I improve? So I have a lot of people, a lot of dancers that I see, and I kind of make I like to see them as a role model for the best technique, the best artistry, and the best partnering skills, and then apply that to myself the best I can.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot of beautiful dancers. Mainly, I like to watch Russian dancers,
Mhm.
and I like to watch Royal Ballet dancers from the Royal Ballet of London. So yeah.
Is there a specific difference that they do that strikes you?
Well, they all have something different to show, and I mean everybody's so different. So let's say if I'm looking into watching somebody that has the most beautiful lines and they use their feet amazingly and they have a beautiful split, a nice upper body, I'll watch one dancer. If I'm watching for like partnering skills, I may go to this other dancer and watch him do some part of this.
I see.
Or if there's a guy who jumps the highest and I want to see what he can do, like the jumps he does, and like try to get a feeling of it. You don't get to see like how he prepares for it, but you get a feeling of how he's doing, how he gets his hips in the air, how big is the rabattement he does, so that way you can get a higher jump. So it always depends, but everyone has different qualities. Everyone's stronger in certain things. So it really depends.
It's a great thing to aspire and have your role models to look up to. How about you, Whitney? Tell us a little bit more about who you watch on YouTube.
I don't watch too much YouTube. I actually like to learn from my peers. So there's 7 sugar plums. So I kind of like to oh, she does that really well. Or, I'll even ask of, my friend, because all of them, they're my friends. And I'm like, well, how do you do this? Or, I ask them, what should I do for this? It's always nice to learn from others. I think that's kind of how I've just been brought up. Like I learned a lot of bettering my technique just from watching other people. So it's almost like you have the opportunity to watch somebody else and then maybe pull from what they're doing or ask them, what do you think I should do here? Because you don't always know what you look like. And it's kind of nice to have, obviously you have the artistic staff, which tells you, but it's also nice to have a friend tell you like, maybe you should, smile here a little more. Like even something that small can be very helpful. And I think it's really nice. And I feel like the company's pretty close where we feel comfortable telling each other corrections, things like that. So I think that's been very beneficial to learn from my coworkers.
Well, giving and receiving critique in the arts is a big thing, absolutely, and that's how artists and dancers grow. You've all mentioned a little bit about growing up and dancing as children. So becoming a dancer, Whitney, tell us all about, did you see the performance, the Nutcracker, as a child, and did you dance in the ballet as a young child then?
Yes. So when I was in school, they took us to a field trip to see the Nutcracker. We saw Columbia City Ballet do the Nutcracker. And I wanted to do it. I was like, that's what I want to do. It was so beautiful. And then when I started dancing with that company I mentioned before, Ebony Dance Theater, that's when I started getting the opportunity to perform. And I did, I said I did Party Girl and Bonbon and Marzipan. And yeah, so I was doing Nutcracker for many, many years when I was a young child.
I see. Thank you. Well, I think you've mentioned when we spoke earlier that your entire family danced.
Almost. Me and my brother and my sister, we danced. The 3 of us, we went to dance school. The only ones that became professionals were me and my brother. My sister, she danced into her last year in school and she graduated and stuff as well. But me and my brother were the only ones who actually joined companies.
Mhm,
My
mhm.
mom and dad, they never danced. They never had been involved in the arts. So it's quite amazing how it turned out.
Mhm, mhm.
But yeah, just me and my brother that decided to be professional ballet
To be
dancers.
professional. That's
Yeah.
great to have a family
Yeah.
supporting you in
Oh,
that way. Mhm. Madeline, may I call on you? We saw you in a bumblebee costume and you said you were two. So I gather you danced when you were much younger.
Oh yes, yes. That I was in small studios in Illinois and Texas before coming to Kansas City Ballet School, and my parents probably had an influence on me because both of them are very musical people, and so that's probably part of the reason why my mom put me in ballet. And I've absolutely loved it ever since. And this is actually my first experience performing in the Nutcracker. Um, and I had done small performances at those small studios in those cities. But this is from Giselle in Texas. And this was the last performance that I did prior to COVID. So this is really going to be a wonderful experience being on the stage. Just so many emotions, and I'm just so excited.
Mhm. For the aspiring dancers in the audience, or someone who would want to give somebody else an advice, what are some of your lessons that you've learned that have helped you in your own dance career, Madeline?
I would say to not compare yourself to others is a big one that I've learned, because that's not gonna really get you anywhere. You have to focus on yourself and the improvements that you need to make. And really, you need to figure out what your strengths and your weaknesses are so that you can improve those weaknesses and cherish those strengths that you have. You need to find out what makes you special, because there's no other dancer that's going to be exactly like you.
That's a great advice. Whitney, what is your lesson learned?
I think I agree 100% with what Madeline just said, not to compare yourself, but I think it's also important to like enjoy yourself, like enjoy being at the bar, doing plies, like, because your body's not going to be able to do that forever. And so sometimes, like, I love class. Class is my favorite time of the day. And I just really, really enjoy just ballet. So I would say, enjoy every moment of this chance you get to dance. And so I would focus on that and not the things that, obviously could be better, or I'm not like this dancer or whatever, but just be happy and be, so excited that you're getting to do this art form every day.
What a special talent to be able to use your, like you said, your body as an art form. Absolutely. Let me.
yes, I agree with both of them as well. But I also like to think that, as Whitney say as well, like our career is so short. And really taking care of your body and knowing your limits, I think it helps a lot. And I think that's one of the lessons I've learned, that and that sometimes you don't learn that until you become older, because nobody really tells you, oh yeah, let's take care of your body. They just push you. But I think it's very important that every dancer, every student is aware of what the body is. It's our instrument of work, so as the days go by, I learn every day to take care of my body more and more and more, so that way I can perform more and more and more. So that's one of the things I like to think for myself, and working for myself, being honest with myself, um, not comparing yourself, but always trying to be better than yesterday. and being better for you, not for anybody else, because you want to have that joy, you want to do it for yourself.
Thank you for sharing that. All of these are such great lessons in really any field, so thank you. Madeline, what are some of your personal and career goals that you look forward to?
Well, obviously, it's to become a professional dancer one day. All of this training is, eventually, hopefully, going to get me to that. So it would be a dream to be a professional ballerina one day.
That's great. How about you, Whitney? What's next? What's ongoing? What's the dream?
I think just continue to do what I'm doing and try to be the best dancer that I could possibly be. Like, I aspire to do, more featured and lead roles. Like, that's what I think any ballerina wants. And so I think just being my best self is the road I want to continue on and continue doing.
That's awesome. Lamine, what about your aspirations?
Oh, so many. They come and go. No, yeah. I think my inspiration at the moment, one of my goals is to stay as healthy as I can, so I can dance until I'm like 45. Which is really hard because it's our profession is very demanding on our bodies. But that's one of the things that I want to do. I want to be able to dance for a long time and without surgeries. I want to go surgery free. So that's why it's very important for me to take care of my body, so I don't have to get in the operation room. I can just dance until I'm 45 and healthy, and and then after that I can go into other things and start thinking now about other things, maybe become a director one day, or just a teacher in a school. Of course, you have to go through the ranks and stuff, but maybe one day I would love to be a director and have a great company as well.
That's great. That is such an interesting thing, that the career is so short, if you will, but so great in how much you put into it. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And it really sounds like there's some amazing, proud moments in your careers already. We have about 7 minutes, and I would like to kind of concentrate in closing on the Nutcracker again. Is there anything that you wish more people knew about this ballet? Lamine.
I wish people knew how hard it is to actually put this entire production, or any production, not only the Nutcracker, but this one specifically, because it has a lot of children. This year won't have as many children, but usually there's a lot of children. There is a whole crew behind the scenes who is involved, so we can put the performance on. And just, I feel like they know so much about this ballet because we do it every year. So they have some sort of connection, and they feel familiar with it. But they don't know what goes behind the scenes to making this happen, all the people involved, and, the stage manager, the wardrobe, and it's a lot of people involved. So to put a show like this on stage, it takes a lot. It takes a village, and I wish the audience could see that part as well. So I think that's important that I say this, because sometimes you just go to a performance and you're like, oh, it's great, but then they don't know how much goes into it, how many hours of rehearsals, how many crew members it takes to put the whole thing together, or to make the Drosselmeyer fly, an example. So those are little things that I think we could explore a little bit more and give that knowledge to our audience members. But I think that's it, because everything else they pretty much know. They know the story, they go there for that. So that's what I think.
What about you, Whitney? And the question was, what do you kind of wish people knew about the ballet or the preparation or the performances?
Yeah, I think sometimes people don't realize how many casts there are. So, meaning like for each night, there's like a different group of people performing roles. Like, so one night, you'll be doing, say one night I'm doing Frau, and then the next night I'm doing Sugar Plum. So there's a total, I think, of 7 of those. So yeah, I think it's nice for the audience to know that if they keep coming back, they will see different people do different parts. So that can maybe have them come a little more if they like a specific dancer and they're like, oh, I want to see this dancer do Sugar Plum, or I want to see this dancer do, another role. They could actually have many opportunities to see the ballet and see a different ballet because it's a different dancer.
That's very interesting. I think that's what I asked you guys yesterday or when we spoke, and I was impressed how many different roles and people there are involved. Madeline, what do you want to share that normally we wouldn't know as visitors and as audience, as laymen?
Well, the story is actually based on a E.T.A. Hoffman story called The Nutcracker and the Mouse King. But really, I think that the Nutcracker ballet, it obviously has a story and the audience knows that, but especially at the end, I think it's wonderful that really it's up to their interpretation about what would happen next or what the message about the ballet is.
That is really great. Well, I have really enjoyed my evening with you. And in closing, I want to thank our audience, but also thank Lamine and Madeline and Whitney for answering all these questions in such great depth and understanding of your craft. I've learned so much and what it takes to be a dancer, and I really appreciate you sharing your personal and your professional journeys. It's really impressive. You can see the Kansas City Ballet dancers in a performance of Devon Carney's The Nutcracker, December 3rd through the 24th in the Mural Kaufman Theater at the Kaufman Center for the Performing Arts. Kansas City box office, Kansas City Ballet box office, or the kcballet.org is where you can look for tickets. And again, this year's season, Kansas City Ballet tickets. With those, you are invited to the National Museum of Toys and Miniatures for a free visit to the museum. And with that, I would like to thank all of you participants and our audience. And we look forward to seeing you at the ballet and the museum. Bye now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.